fun exploring this awesome worsted stripes yarn from Herrchners, and I designed the block stitch blanket with it because it's so fun to do color work when you don't have a ton of ends to weave in. The striping yarn changes colors all on its own, and it makes it more stimulating to crochet. It's really fun to crochet when it's changing colors. Now the blanket I did it in stripes with some solids in between the worsted stripes. So the yarn that I used for this was the Herrchners Worsted stripes, and each one of these is an amazing 743 yards. This is a worsted weight yarn. And this colorway is very merry, so this would be great for a holiday blanket. The one I used for the one you're seeing on camera right here, this one is the Flourish. And then I've also created one, well, my mom helped me out. My mom made the sample size body portion in this color, which is really pretty. And this is the Frosty Autumn. And then I also have some of this I love. I'll be using this in the future for a project because it's so cool. I love these colors. And this is the Moroccan. Now they even have more colors than this. You'll definitely need to check it out, but you'll want to pair it with a solid color if you are doing the striping. Now you can do the whole thing in these stripes, but if you want to pair it with a solid color, they also have the worsted jumbo yarn. This is also 743 yards in one ball. Now they do sell these in smaller balls if you're looking for a smaller project, but this is amazing for blankets because you have less ends to weave in when you know you're not going to run out and have to start a new ball anytime soon. So there's white or ivory if you want to use that to pair with it. There's a gray. There are so many colors of this worsted yarn that's in that jumbo, or you can even get it in less yardage. So these are great yarns to check out. It's the star of the project for this for sure. So what else you will need for this project today, of course, is a crochet hook. And I use the 5.5 I, so 5.5 millimeter I hook. This is the dots hook from Furls. Now today you will need a crochet hook for this. Now, besides the yarn for this project, we also want a crochet hook, and I use the 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, also an eye hook for this. You'll want some scissors, stitch markers if you want to mark the first and last stitch in each row to really keep track of it, and of course a yarn needle to weave in those ends. But this is a really fun, simple project with a really cute border. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you a smaller swatch of how to work up this block stitch because this blanket pattern comes in several sizes, and then we'll talk about how to do the border no matter what size you worked. Now besides the yarn for this project, we also want a crochet hook, and I use the 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, also an eye hook for this. You'll want some scissors, stitch markers if you want to mark the first and last stitch in each row to really keep track of it, and of course a yarn needle to weave in those ends. But this is a really fun, simple project with a really cute border. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you a smaller swatch of how to work up this block stitch because this blanket pattern comes in several sizes, and then we'll talk about how to do the border no matter what size you worked. Now today on camera I'm going to be showing you the block stitch in the smaller ball of the worsted yarn in the color Leaf. Now this stitch is done in a multiple of 3 plus 2, so that's how many chains you would want to do if you want to size this to be a certain width that you like. So it will be in multiples of 3 plus 2. Now for the sample I'm going to show on camera today, I have changed 23 stitches. That is a multiple of 3 plus 2. Now we're going to be working from the very first chain from the hook. We're going to be using something called a stack single crochet that will make this nice and easy. Now to work a stack single crochet, I like to work in the bottom humps of the very first chain from the hook, insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And now we're going to do that again. We're going to go back through that left bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And that is the first stitch of the row, and it is nice until you get used to these stack single crochets to mark the top of that stitch so we don't lose track. And now we are simply going to double crochet into each chain stitch across, and that will be row 1. At the end of row 1, we still have 23 stitches. And now for row 2, we are simply going to single crochet into the very first stitch of the row, and then chain 2, skip 3 stitches, and single crochet between those double crochet stitches. And then for our repeat across, we are going to chain 2, skip 3, and single crochet between those double crochet stitches. Chain 2, skip 3, single crochet between the double crochet stitches. And we're going to work that all the way across until we get to the last stitches of this row. And now as we get to the last 4 stitches, I've chained 2, I'll skip 3, and we are going to single crochet in the top of that stacked single crochet from row 1. And that completes row 2, and now we're going to turn our work and work row 3. So for row 3, we're going to start in this very first stitch with a stacked single crochet. And now working into this first chain space, we are going to double crochet 3. And now into the next chain space, we're going to double crochet 3. And we're going to repeat that all the way across until we get to the last stitch of the row. And now as we get to the last stitch of the row, we will simply double crochet into that last stitch. And then we're ready for row 4. We're going to turn our work. And for row 4, it's a repeat of row 2. So we're going to single crochet into that very first stitch, skip the next group of 3 stitches, and chain 2. And then we're going to be working into this next space between those stitches. It's a bit more obvious now with a single crochet. Then we will chain 2, skip that group of 3, and single crochet between them. Chain 2, skip the group of 3, and single crochet between them. And that's the repeat across for row 4. Now this is a really simple row repeat because we are simply repeating rows 3 and 4 again and again and again to get that block stitch blanket. Now when it comes to working the block stitch blanket, the size I made was a stroller size, and I did my first section with 16 total rows, and then I did a section in solid of 16 rows, another section in the multicolor of 16 rows, solid 16 rows, and then for this last one I only did 15 rows because I omitted that very last row where you do the chain spaces because I think it looks much cleaner to omit that on the very last repeat. Now you really can easily adjust the way you do the stripes and the way you do the width and how long, how wide you want this is really, really easy to adjust. So you can do the striping however you wish. Once you have the striping done, then it's time to work on the border. Now when I worked this blanket, I ended up doing, you can kind of see this line, I ended up doing a round in that white color. For this example, I am simply going to keep in the same tone, but it's up to you if you want to do a round in the white color and then a round in the multi, or if you want the entire edge to be in one solid color. Feel free to do that. The color choice is completely up to you. But first we're going to go around one time and I'm going to show you how to do this nice clean edge that makes it look really crisp. And then we'll talk about doing this puff stitch border. Now to do the clean edge all the way around, I have ended with my last stitch and I'm simply going to chain 1 on the corner. And then I'm going to work along the edge of the blanket. I'm going to work 2 stitches per double crochet row and 1 stitch when we have that single crochet row with those chains. So we'll start by doing a single crochet, and you can go ahead and mark that stitch as the first stitch of the round. And now to do this clean line border, we are going to be doing a really fun stitch here. Normally in previous patterns, I've slip stitched all the way around and then I've come back and single crocheted in the back loop only all the way around, but we're going to do this in one go and it looks just as good and it looks very similar. So we're going to enter into this left bar here and this will help us create the look we want. So I'll enter into that left bar and then I'm going to go into the next space. Remember, I'm working 2 stitches along the edge of each double crochet row. And I'm going to yarn over and pull that loop up and pull it through the first loop on my hook. Then we will yarn over and pull through 2. And then let's do that again. That's going to be the repeat around. So through the left bar, into the next space on the blanket. So now I'm going to work along that single crochet edge, pull up a loop, pull through the first bar, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops on the hook. So once again, through that left bar, into the edge of the blanket, pull up a loop and pull it through the first loop on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2. And that creates a really nice edge along this blanket. I'm going to work this all the way around, and when you get to the corners, you're simply going to chain 1 on the corners and work into the same space. I'll show you that when I get to the first corner. As we get down to this corner, now we're on our corner stitch. I'm still going to work the stitch the same way by working through the left bar, going into this corner stitch, completing that stitch, chaining 1, going through the left bar, going back into that corner stitch space, and working that stitch again. And that will help keep those corners a bit more sharp. And now I'm going to work this all the way around back to the beginning, and then we'll do the puff stitch round. Now that we've worked all the way around, we are going to slip stitch to the beginning of this round, and we are ready to start that puff stitch round. Now to get started with our very first puff stitch, we're going to chain 1, and then working in the first stitch of this round, we are going to work a modified puff stitch, which means we're not going to do a full-on puff stitch. We're just going to stop right here when we have 5 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and go through 4, and then yarn over and go through the remaining 2. I'm going to be doing that a couple times to show how that's done, but I just want to get started on this sequence here. Then we're going to chain 2, and working in that first chain, so the second chain from the hook, we are going to yarn over, insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and insert into that chain again, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 4, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. And that's our second puff stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to work a puff stitch into the next. So yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and insert into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. We have 5 loops on the hook. We'll yarn over and pull through 4, then yarn over and pull through 2. So that's how we work these vertical puff stitches. And the horizontal puff stitch, once again, we're going to chain 2, working into the second chain from the hook, yarn over and insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and work into the same chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 4, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. Now we're going to skip the next stitch and work a puff stitch into the next. And that's what we're going to do all the way around. Now, some of this, because of these like nice clean stitches, some of this may have a little bit of a wave to it, but I like that about it. It can add a nice border that has a little tiny bit of a ruffle. If you feel like you're having too many ruffles, you can tighten your stitches down a bit. You can go down a hook size. So chain 2, working back into the second chain from the hook, do a puff stitch, and now we're going to skip a stitch and puff stitch into the next. And we will repeat that all the way around. Now when it comes to the corners, you're simply just going to keep working this around those corner edges. It has enough give to it that it will go around those edges quite nicely. Let me show you what that looks like. So here's an example of it worked along the edge. This is the beginning of the round, and I've simply worked it into the edge, and it works nicely around that corner. Same with this. We're just going to work around that edge, skipping stitches in between, and if it puckers too much, then you can go ahead and work on the edge and not skip a stitch if you want it to be a bit more crisp. But this has so much give to it, it works around those corners quite nicely. You'll work this all the way around and then join and fasten off. I really hope you enjoy working up this block stitch blanket as well as this fun puff stitch border. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back for more fun projects soon.